been discussing this a little bit, but you're the one who's really going to take the lead on that. So go, girl.
Yeah. So I don't know what all you said to them, but we if you played through each other's arrangements, did you notice that there were a lot of different harmony chord, a lot of different chords, like other arrangements we've worked on, even though everybody has their own twist, some of the chords are in common, right? And we noticed that that didn't happen this time. So I think we need to take a step back and learn how to identify the implied harmony. We've been so spoiled because lots of times the sheet music already has the little chord symbols up there. So that makes it a little bit easier for us to just do that. But this piece of music did not have chord symbols. And so that means you have to figure out the chords yourself and figure out what the implied harmony was. I think so what I want to do, did you make a copy of revision 4 and 5 and 10 and whatever? Yeah. So I kept finding bloopers, and it's like, oh dear, which I thought I had them all. I probably sent the wrong version a couple of times. And so if we look right, if you have that handy that you can look at, I see at the very beginning, the other part about this piano accompaniment, they don't really have as many notes in the piano accompaniment as other sheet music we have seen, right? So that makes it a little more difficult too. So when I look at the I Am Thinking Today, sometimes that chord can be called an E flat 6 chord, but it also has another name, right? Everybody is aware of that. Okay, so I think what we need to do is go through and see if you got a chance to look at it, see if you have any questions about some of these chords. What I noticed in this one, I'm sure you noticed too, it was like the same chord for a couple of measures, and then go a little bit farther and same chord for a couple of measures, which means we as arrangers have to be a little more creative on how we handle that. And so I think it's important to know how to find the chords. So did anybody do that before you started arranging your song? Did you go through and try to identify the chords? Yeah.
Well, I tried to find the implied harmony.
Yay, good.
And the first page, the verse was, I almost didn't get this thing done because I was like, what is this? What is it? Because the bass didn't match the tune and the tune's harmony. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I was really confused the whole time, and finally threw up my hands and did what I did.
Yeah. Did anybody else have trouble with that? I mean, because Judy and I were talking about it, we had trouble ourselves. Like, what is that supposed to be? What's that harmony supposed to be?
Well, I was saying before that I was listening to some of the recordings on YouTube of some old, just to hear it, get it in my head, and then playing it on the piano and trying to say, okay, what chord sounds closest to what there's, they're singing.
Yes.
But, and Linda put her chords right at the top, so we knew what Linda was thinking, and pretty much had a great deal of them right. I know that you put.
I took mine out. Yeah.
Oh, did they come through? They weren't supposed to come through, but maybe they did in the XML. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I left mine on there just for this class tonight, though.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Well, and at the risk of making Judy tear her hair out, circle of fifths helps a lot on that first page.
Yes.
Figuring out what's what too. If you if you see where that's going.
Yes, that's very helpful.
That Jean put the final thing in for the E flat people, the chords, right, Jean?
I don't remember.
No, this is the chords that she wrote are the ones for the A flat.
Oh no,
the sheet
music.
I think when she said E flat, we did that for the E flat people, not for the F.
Oh no. I was looking at the first chord that was an E flat 6 chord.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right. So it was really hard to identify the chords, and if you can play the piano, sometimes you can figure out the chords that way. And if you're not very good at playing the piano, I love what Jeannie did. Go on YouTube and listen to it and see if you can get an idea of how how the harmony goes. Yes. And so the hard part was they didn't even have enough notes in the piano accompaniment to make a chord sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's like
wondering about one place. Let's see.
Yeah, me too. Like, how did you name that thing with only 2 notes?
Yeah. And then there were some other little notes in there that really didn't go with anything either. That was confusing too. I was like, whoa.
I thought that was going to be a hint to what chord I needed, but it didn't. It didn't always work.
Not really.
Yeah.
It was
Judy,
awful.
Tell them what Kay said about those little notes.
Because before I realized that another difference in this, the sheet music I had didn't have those little notes. And I asked her, I said, what's up with that? Did you guys add that in so they would know it? And she said, they used to write, some arrangements had what they called a descant. And they put that in as a descant or something. I don't know. I guess I didn't pay much attention, but that was her answer. So,
well, there is a recording on YouTube of someone singing those notes.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what's written there. I think. Yeah. I mean, I didn't check every single note, but it sure sounded like it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're struggling with trying to figure out the chords for this, and it's really important that you know what the composer intended for the implied harmony before you try to tackle an arrangement. And so I'm hoping that this sheet will help you, but can you ask questions about, how did you figure out? Somebody just said, how did you figure out when it was only 2 notes there?
Well, yeah, I have a question about, let's see, the one on voice. You've got an E flat 7 there.
Well, you know what? It could be wrong. I found a lot of bloopers.
Well, what I heard was the E natural for a diminished chord.
Oh.
And
where are you now?
Okay, where?
Voice. That's the last system on the first page, the second to the last measure, the first chord, voice.
Yes. So how did you do
what we have in the sheet music is the D flat and the G and the B flat. And so you filled in an E flat to get that. I filled in an E natural to get a diminished chord.
So I chose an E flat because there's an E flat in the key signature. So that's why.
Yeah. Well, okay. That makes sense.
And if you look at the last chord in that measure, there is an E flat.
There is,
E flat GB.
Okay.
So that's I was going by that, but I always try to do what's in the
Jean, also, don't you consider, I was thinking on the downbeat of a measure, that you would want to keep something more, not so dissonant as a diminished chord.
Right. You want to keep something tonic or subdominant or something, or dominant.
Can I say something about that?
Okay.
What you said.
I just wanted to say one thing, that when I looked at the first 3 notes of voice, 3 of those notes are in the E flat 7th chord, which was another reason why I labeled it that way. Okay, Judy.
I was just going to say that one of the things, as it says in the evaluation, the harmonization is your ability to determine and use the most appropriate chords, blah, 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 including choosing appropriate substitute chords and or enhancing the barbershop flavor of the song while still honoring the composer's intent. And Linda, that is exactly what you did. That's entirely
good job. Yay!
You made that an E natural because the E natural chord leads into the next chord much better than that.
That's kind of why I did that. Yeah.
Yes. And so you did exactly, that's a very important, I think, is that you have chosen to enhance the barbershop flavor, because we have to know that we're singers, and not having a piano and an orchestra or something behind us to fill in all those others. We only get 4 notes, right? I'd say good on you, and that's good every day of the week. It isn't the downbeat, as Jeannie was saying.
Right.
You still have the very clear downbeats but the notes in between, sometimes we have to be able to give them some flavor. That's all. You didn't hurt the composer's intent at all. So good job.
Yeah. So I just tried to go with the notes that were there, and I played. So even though I'm a slow piano player, I can play the notes that are on the music, and my brain or my ear or something fills in. I mean, I hear in my brain the notes that weren't in this particular sheet music, and that helped me identify the chords too. But I'm sure everybody approaches that in a different way. So far, the sheet music we've had has a more complete chord structure in the piano accompaniment. Plus, it had the chord symbols. And so, but you have to know how to be able to figure that out when you don't have that. So that should be one of the first things you do before you try to arrange the song and just go, oh, that's a G, I could use a G7, I could use a E flat, I could use a C, instead of just guessing of G, what it goes. So I'm hoping this page having this will help you. There were some chords in here that, really weren't chords that we have in our Sweet Adeline vocabulary. So like on the second page, where it's in the third measure where it says D flat minor 6/9. So it really, has the notes of the D flat minor 6 chord, but there's also a ninth added to that, that's in the building of that chord. And so as arrangers, we have to figure out which notes will work best. Of course, you have to have the melody note. You have to have some kind of foundation and what's going to work best to give it the barbershop flavor that we're looking for.
Which chord were you talking, dear?
On the second page, the third measure, the D flat minor 6 with a /9, and there were some other spots like that. So let's see, where's there another wacko one?
But that would have been an instance where the implied harmony of so was an E flat 7, right?
Yeah, yes.
And then that little diddle that they put in the accompaniment was just an arrangement thing.
Yes.
Right? And so I don't know that I even paid any attention to that. I knew, it was just like, okay, it ends on an E flat 7 on these last two measures, and what am I going to put in there for an embellishment? And I don't know that I even paid any attention to those accompaniment chords.
An E flat and an F flat in the same chord. That's
see, I like to pay attention to those things because it gives me an idea for embellishments sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's not a rule that we have to follow, is it?
Right. You don't have to.
For embellishments.
Yeah. So, but there were some wacko ones in here.
Yeah, I was talking about 13. Where did I see the end one? Where was the other one? I didn't.
On the third page, that's the 1, 2, 3. The third stanza says something like an F7 with a flatted 13th added to it.
Oh, yeah, it's on gaze, right? It's on gaze.
Yes, on the word gaze.
And that's the one we were talking about a little bit earlier, where it's clearly an F7, and then you just have to count up by 3s to get to D and call it flatted.
Yeah, D flat,
lower tone. So there's no, Jean's chord speller thing had so many. I mean, we were listening to their descriptions and we're going like,
what?
And up 5.
So that in that measure, I guess the way I looked at that was the implied harmony for that whole measure is F7.
Yeah.
But the lead goes to a note that's not on an F7. So what kind of a substitute chord do I have to pick there?
Right.
I mean, is that the right way to think about it?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. And Did you all get a handout about alternative chord substitutions?
Yeah, you gave it to us.
I think.
Yeah, so I had a question
Yeah.
about that. So when the alternative chords, like if you have, like it says, if the melody note is on this, what's a good substitute chord? But they're talking about like a major chord. What happens with a minor chord? You know, if you have a minor chord, am I looking at its relative major, or am I looking at its, you know, like if the note, if the implied harmony is D, right? And that's so I was getting confused with that. I sort of understood it, but you know, when you start talking about the minor keys, I'm like, well, which one is it? Is it relative major that I'm looking at, or is it?
Yeah.
Not? So.
Oh gosh. Okay. Don't let that get you mixed up. So the implied harmony, that sheet, that handout that I gave, if the implied harmony is any kind of a D chord, even if it's a D minor chord or a D major chord, if it's any kind of a D, then I go to the list that says implied D,
right,
you know, and then I look that way. Did you notice that sheet, it does it faster than my brain, but that sheet shows a chord with the melody note as the root, the melody note as the third of the chord, the melody note as the fifth of the chord, the melody note as the seventh or the ninth, you know. And so it's just giving you all those different options that you can look quickly as a reference, you know, to give you some ideas. Yes, Cheryl.
Don't think I got that handout. When
I don't have anything that says that if it's the third or the fifth or the
when was this? What was it, recently or long ago?
A long time ago, I think. Alternative chord substitution. There, can you see what Jan is holding there?
Yeah, I got that, but I didn't think that was.
Okay, so was that in an email, or when did you?
Yeah, it was sent by email. It might have been after one of the classes.
Yeah. So then it looks like this.
Yeah, so then the other pages look like what Jeannie has there. Yeah.
Oh. Huh.
I'm sure I have it.
I don't have any other.
Okay.
It's very handy. It's very handy.
Yeah.
Wait, hold up yours again, Jan, because I don't.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's what her first. That's what the first page is.
I only have the first page then.
It
had a lot of other pages with it.
Oh, well.
So Jeannie,
I could use those other pages.
See? Okay, I'll resend it.
Okay, thank you.
So the other pages, you know, like Jan is holding up and Jeannie's holding up. So it says implied, you know, that's where you find some chords that can help you.
Almost starting to make one of those myself, because I started thinking about chords in chord families, you know. And, and so, but then I get into, well, there's no chord family for this or whatever, but so if someone's already done it, even better. Better than I would do.
But you said something about if the melody note's on the third or the fifth or the seventh.
Oh, all that chord chart does is shows you different options that you can use as a chord to fit whatever the melody note is. You know, so like if the melody note is a G, you could harmonize it with a G chord or a G7 chord, having the G as the root. If G was the third, that would be like an E minor chord, right?
It sort of follows a circle of fifths and relative minors. Yeah, it sort of goes along with all of that, but it's a handy reference.
Yeah, and it doesn't have all the answers, but a lot of times one of those ideas will work. Yeah. Does that make sense, Wendy, what we were talking about, or not yet?
I'm not seeing how you get that information from this.
Oh, I just know that
from the chart at the top of the chart, it says what all the different chords are.
I don't. What are you looking at?
I don't. Yeah, that doesn't look like the one I have.
That's a different one.
That out again then.
I don't have that one. I have this page.
Yeah. Do you have more pages to that?
Then it just has pages and pages.
Yes.
So you have what I don't have, and I have what you don't have. We should.
Yeah. Well, Linda, I think you ought to send what you have to everybody, and I'll send what I have to everybody once more, and then you know, that's some good resources to help you.
And I have something yet that's a little bit different yet too, that I'll try to spruce up and send out.
Yeah. Okay.
So are you talking about that? Which one? Because guess what, Jen? I spruced up all of them for my travel in tune presentation. So so are you
well,
thinking
mine
of the
is
chord
mine.
speller
I
one?
don't know. Mine is one that I made up myself. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see it. I have this on my on my.
oh, that circle of fifths thing.
It's a circle of fifths, and then the next to it, it's got chord substitutions, and I don't know. I think it was something I put together several things so that I had it all in one little spot.
Yeah.
But I think the way I have it laid out only makes sense to me. So I'm going to have to reword it so that
Yeah.
it makes
Oh, that's
sense
good.
to everybody.
Yeah. But I love the one handout you've made, Jan, that's, it says the chord is C. And look for the C, E, G or C, E, G, B flat, or, how all those letters are written in with the names of what the chord speller. I think that's a really good one too to help.
Oh, I could send that to everybody too.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one.
Can I just mention something about these 13 things which we don't see often, or whatever it happens to be? We have rules for ninths, right? If it's a ninth chord, what do you omit?
Root.
Root
The root or
fifth.
Occasionally the
If
fifth.
it's a dominant ninth chord.
Right.
Dominant, yeah.
Yeah, the root.
If it's a major ninth chord, what do you
ninth,
omit?
you omit
The seventh.
Yes.
seventh. Okay, so if you look at this sheet music and you see this chord on gaze, that there's a clue in here for you, because in the accompaniment, it shows you that there are basically 3 Fs. There's the first F, F, and then the next chord that comes after it is the F7, right? And they've shown you F. Clearly we need the root, don't we? And clearly they have listed 2 A naturals, plus which it comes at the end of the phrase, so that the third you need, and you obviously have to have the melody. So we would so far have, and if we move this up, A natural up to here, you can
Katie,
hear.
what measure are you in? I'm sorry.
Gaze. I'm sorry. They don't have to have a measure.
Yeah, they don't have measure numbers, which is
Okay,
also very interesting.
it's a third page, then next to the last stanza.
Right.
But
And
isn't
it
that
says
just an augmented chord?
Mm-hmm.
It's just F A C
Yeah, that's
sharp.
what I would call it.
It's an augmented chord.
Yeah. That's how we would make it work in our vocabulary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, just follow with me a minute, okay?
Yeah.
If you played this chord together, which that's the chord, okay? If you know that you have to keep the root, the third, the melody note, which is the 13, then you need that 7th. And there is a good chord for us. And that's how you arrived at it, because you had to do those, just like we had a rule for the ninths. I realize it may not be in the Sweet Adeline's vocabulary, but if you look down now on the bottom system where it says heart, pal, oh mine, and that is clearly an E flat 13. There's the chord right there. You didn't have all those. There's no other way to spell it. Do you hear it? It goes all the way up there. And the chords that you had to have for that are root, third, melody note, and 7th. And that's how you would determine on a chord like that. And because you could say it's, but that one you couldn't say it's like an augmented, because you've got in the chord, E flat, C, D flat. So that's just and I think all of these alternative things that you have are great to find them. But in this case, that note is not part of any of the chords. This is clearly a chord that is not, the melody is not on the root, the 5th, the 3rd, or anything. It's out of the key. And so you have to, I don't know any other way. We talked millions of ways to talk about how it is, but the fact is that if we are learning to stack chords by thirds, that chord stacks and it goes all the way to 13.
So
Yeah.
Judy, what chord did you make that? I didn't understand your 1-3 melody plus seventh. What chord did it end up being?
Well, this chord, at the bottom of the page that you see there, the PAL. So some version of that, only it wouldn't be not in that key, but those would be the notes you would find. Let's see.
So you used the E flat for the root, did you? What did you use for the? I'm asking Judy. Yeah. So because they can't see what notes you're playing. So what did you use as the root?
I'm just saying, if you look at the notes, I'm playing exactly what's there on PAL. E flat, G, and C in some variety. Those would be the 4 notes that you have to create. It's a really beautiful chord, I think. And the same was on Gaze. It was the same thing.
Yeah, but what do you call it when you're finished? When you've left all the stuff out you're going to leave out? What is
all the
it?
Stuff out that you're going to leave out?
Yeah.
A mess is what I call it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's the question. You got an E flat 13. That's not something we know how to use.
Yeah.
What do you actually use?
I don't know. Now that's a good question, because
I mean, I call it a C minor personally.
Yeah, I used a minor chord there.
Or E flat 6, you know.
Right.
Yes. E flat 6 would work. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what you call it. I just know that if we're trying to identify chords, first off.
Yeah.
But you can't use the 13, so what do you use in a 12?
Yeah, that's not the implied harmony of that measure, though.
Right.
That's just an oddball melody note.
Yes.
Against an E flat or whatever. I don't know. I've lost my.
Yeah, but I understand. And
I mean, the implied harmony is E flat, and so you have to find a substitute chord that incorporates that weird melody note.
You could. Yeah. I'm not saying that's how I would. I'm just saying we're just trying to identify chords, and then you come to the substitution factor, which is exactly what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
That you would then substitute, because you wouldn't play that chord like that to have that together, right? But if we're trying to identify it, then we know that, okay, now we're going to go to a substitute chord that has some of that flavor, which is probably
that E flat.
some kind of a C7 or minor 7 or whatever. It's going to have that flavor. I just was we're just talking about identifying chords. That's all. Yeah. I wasn't saying you need to make that into the chord, but that's the flavor of the chord. And if you can find something, then it helps to. I think some of you did. I think we did, but
helps you know what kind of chord to look for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
So Wendy, are you lost?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
You
were looking like perplexed.
But figuring out the implied harmony is a little bit different than stacking chords.
Yes.
It's basically what do you leave out, and what's the most important chord in a measure or 2 measures, and what is not relevant for the moment. And that, to me, I mean, I struggled really long time in life trying to figure that out, and came to understand that there can be more than one answer. And I like, for instance, I play the ukulele, and I went to find some chords for a song, and there's a simple one, there's a medium, and a difficult. And to me, for figuring out the implied harmony, I want the simple one, because you can always decorate.
Yes.
So that's kind of, but it took me a long time to kind of grasp that idea. To what's the main sound you want, the bass note that you'd be on most of the time in this measure or this other 2 measures.
Right.
Yeah.
What chord is most dominant, and the other ones you have to find substitutes for. So to me, that's a whole different skill, and it's still one that I'm not real sure about.
Okay.
Still
Yeah.
kind of, did I get that right? This one I didn't. I think it sounded fine to me, but it's definitely not what, this was such a confusing one. I mean, I ended up
Yes.
playing what I thought was a bass note and playing the tune and that little descant above it, trying to figure out, is this an A flat or is this an E flat or is this, what is it doing?
Yeah.
And, you know, this threw up my
Very
head.
confusing.
Very
Yeah.
confusing, and the accompaniment didn't help. The chords didn't help. The
Yeah.
descant made it even harder. And
Yeah.
but anyway, I was just figuring out implied harmony is a little different than
Yeah.
just stacking chords.
And then when you know what the implied harmony is for the measure, when you have a note that's not in that chord, you want to try to find a substitute chord that maybe has two of the notes from the implied harmony chord, or sometimes it'll have the root in the seventh, or sometimes it'll have you try to find a chord that has at least two of from the implied harmony chord. It doesn't always work that way, but that's something that can help you decide which chord to use.
I didn't know that. I always just try to find one that kind of sounds like what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, if it's moody and minor E, then you want moody and minor E.
Yeah.
Not, then it was cheerful.
Okay.
I have a question on page 2, for example, on Dream Once Again.
Yep.
When I arranged that, I thought at first I gave it a 7th both times, and then I thought, well, it'd be way more interesting to not go right to the 7th on Dream and then just repeat it. Is that acceptable to not follow the music in that way?
That's where you do exactly like what Linda was talking about. Are you talking about the voice ringing clear part?
Nope. Dream Once Again.
Dream Once Again.
It's the same chords, isn't it?
Right at the refrain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly on line. Let me dream once again. So they said B flat 7, B flat 7, but what I did was B flat and then B flat 7. Just to have a journey and not just go straight to the. So I don't know if that's an acceptable choice. Away.
It's kind of a personal preference thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're talking, Cheryl, on the refrain, let me dream once again.
Yes. Yeah.
And tell me what you did. I'm sorry. I just
went to B flat instead of 7th on the word dream. I didn't go to the 7th until I got to again.
That could, that get out here, but it could be a choice. It could be a choice in how you frame it. It seems like you'd need the 7th at the beginning, but you know, anything is possible if you've got it.
It two whole measures of 7th. So I thought, why not give it some place to go to the 7th?
And you're right, because there's so much of the repetition of that. Yeah, that's you are making choices to make it enhance the barbershop flavor and still keep the intent. Yeah. Without that. So sometimes that 7th is really important, and sometimes it can come a little later, as you were doing. Yeah, I think that we're going to get there eventually. So, if we can move on from something, because we got a lot of stuff here.
Yes.
Unless you have something, Jean, if you have something else on this that you want to talk about, please do.
No, I want to help. It sounds like you're starting to get the idea of implied harmony now, Wendy. Or you still? Is there some way I can help you?
No, I have the idea of implied harmony. It is sometimes difficult to figure out what it is. It is not difficult for me usually to figure out 90% of a song, but there will always be times when I'm like.
Every song has those spots.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked really hard at it. I think I have a grip on it. I did something different in the first verse, which I thought sounded fine, but
following the circle of fifths helps. You know, when I listened to the beginning of yours, it was like it didn't follow a circle of fifths, and so it felt awkward or something to me.
There was one measure that didn't flow. I kind of tripped up on that one, but to me, that whole verse, even if it was in the, even if I had used a different implied harmony, that was just a hell of a verse.
Yeah. Jumps all over the place. Yeah.
And I think
That
we
was just
have one of those on when we get down to the harmonization. I think that Jean, I couldn't remember the ones when we talked about the ones I think that we fixed before. I didn't put them on this sheet that I sent out, and I think you have those.
Yes.
And I can't remember what I couldn't remember which ones, and so
I know we fixed the spots, but I didn't mark what were the spots that we fixed. Yeah.
So if you when we get there, I think because one of those was Wendy's, I'm pretty sure
Okay.
that was exactly the place you were talking about. But so
well, let's move on to the evaluation sheet
okay,
to see if we can help you.
What about selecting the key?
we had the next.
Oh, you didn't do that when I wasn't on, right?
You got that, didn't you?
How
Jean?
do you select the key?
Yeah.
How do you select the key for a song? I mean, I know what I do. What do you do to decide what key you should use?
And look at how high the lead goes, what the lead range is, and then bring it down so that it falls, within range.
Yeah.
Not above a C and not below a G.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to fudge.
Right.
And
right.
then the next thing I think about is what bass note has to go with that.
Mm-hmm. If I look at the whole melody and most of it is like down low, like a bulk of it is down low, then I'm going to put it in a higher key. If I see the bulk of it is like, where am I? Then I might put it in a lower key. So I look at the highest note in the melody and the lowest note in the melody, whatever that is. And usually the sheet music is not always in the key that we use for barbershop. So I'll just, I would just go, oh shoot, not that. And I just walk it down until I see it's kind of in the lead range. So thank you, Judy, for sending that sheet that shows about the range, the full range and the suggested range and stuff, because then I just walk it down until the lowest note and the highest note looks like, oh, that would be comfortable for leads. But then it might be the key of G flat, so then I'd have to go up a half step or down a half step or something.
Yeah.
So what do the rest of you do to try to decide what key?
I do that, and then I figure how what the bass gonna have to do.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Baritone and tenor just have to deal with it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could learn. And I don't know if somebody wants to share the screen with what the vocal range is that we have, but I think as we look at those, where the best, I call it the comfort zone, because that was kind of terminology that Sweet Adeline's used, but I call it the sweetness of your part, the best tessitura, where you are staying within where you can sing. And I think that we miss the point when you get into dangerous territory, really, when you get the tenors down below that A very often, and then when you have things in E flat and the tenors are down to an F sharp, you basically, everybody has a break in there and they're no longer in their best singing range. And if they are that low, that means the whole chord is really going to be, could possibly be muddy, because there's not much wiggle room there. So if you can do something that keeps those tenors up there, I think we're kind of obsessed with what the basses do. And so we need to remember that we need to keep the ring in the chord. And that happens if those tenors don't have to go very often, certainly not on held chords, below that A. They can sing it, but if it's a fleeting kind of thing, that's the optimum situation. The same for the leads. If the leads go, they could possibly B flat, even can be B flat, whatever. You go below that, you've almost gone to another range, and you can't keep. It's hard for them to keep in that sweetness of the range when most of them have the sweetness in their range going up a little higher. You know what I'm saying? And yes, the baritones can sing anything, so whatever. But you know, they adjust anyway. They adjust, they become, you know, they fill, they lighten, they do everything anyway. So, but it's important to keep in the best tessitura for the leads and to keep the ring that the tenors provide while still, and sometimes I saw in arrangements, the basses, you know, that comfort zone, as it says, from E to E, we had the basses pushing up above them. Yes, they could, some of them sing to an A flat. Not a good plan. G, not a very good plan. F, yeah, kind of, you know, if you can avoid it, revoice the chord and bring the bass down to where they like to where they can stay in the same, someone was said the elevator space, keep in the same elevator space. When the elevator goes up high, they get squeezed, you know, let's keep them in their full range. So that's why I like to look, and I've compared this with several ranges on what the different ones that are out there. This happens to be the one I believe is where your range that we ideally would like to keep within. And I think that's why I think the E flat was too low to begin with, because this melody line, not always, E flat could be fine. In this song, it made the leads down important notes on an A natural, in low A natural.
You don't like
da,
that.
da, da, da. That's, you have now, you know, and it made then the tenors come down to like an F sharp or something. So those are kind of red flags to me. So those are just thoughts.
So on a hang, if I have a tenor hang, should I avoid ever giving him an F or an F sharp?
The down low one or the up high one?
Oh, no, a tenor high hang, a high.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm talking about this note.
She's talking about in the first space. That F sharp.
Yeah, the one, yeah, down here.
yes, oh, I know what you're saying, Judy, but in the comfort zone of a tenor, we have only a fifth, A to E. So for tenor hangs, should I not give them a hang above an E?
Oh, I'm sure that the tenors, you know, yeah, I don't think that's out of the thing. It is a beginning of the high range. I'm just saying where they're mostly comfortable singing is kind of in that little area where we put most of the notes. But certainly, if you want to ask a tenor to vault up to a B flat, she could probably do it.
Are you talking because we're talking about C-level choruses, or because most of the music I sing, my range, I mean, most of the songs that I sing were on hangers on Fs and Gs, and you know, so are we looking at, you know, I'm just trying to, because a lot of my music that I look at, the tenors are up on Es and Fs a lot.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Let me be clear that I'm talking about in the middle of the song as you're moving there. As you're moving along, it's difficult for the tenors to keep in a flow of things. The tenors can always, like I said, you can vault them up. You're talking about a tag. Yes. They can go to the F.
They can do that, yeah.
But not in the general voicing of the song.
It's not a note they're singing the whole song.
Yeah, they don't want to live there.
Yeah.
So they don't want to. They have a high break in the voice around C above middle C. Is that where it is, or is it higher than that? So it makes it hard for them to maybe E to F. Is that where the break is in the high voices?
No. It's the lower range that's the concern. It's
okay. But so when it's
all of a sudden we are out of our tessitura when we go down to G and F sharp and F. It's okay. That's the thing. But yeah, tenors can pop a high note. Yeah,
and hold it a long time. But it's not. It's just in the singing, bouncing around and singing your notes. You don't like to be popping up two Fs and Gs.
Yeah, Jan said it just right. Don't live there. Yeah.
Don't live there. Yeah. They like to visit occasionally. It's kind of the uncle that they want to see once every 10 years. But no. Tenors can easily go to that high thing. It's just that's a high range, and I could have even put a B flat up there because I've had tenors they could do it, but yeah, they
Yeah.
go, oh, that's high, but once they know where it is, they love to go there because they're shining stars. But
Mhm.
it's not the comfort zone is what I was thinking of is that the singable range for your song.
Okay.
You can always go to extremes on maybe a tag on a post, like you said, on a tag that works. I wouldn't hesitate at all. But it's just, I'm not worried about the top part, I guess. I'm worried about living there, as Jan said.
Yeah.
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 So anyway, okay. Okay, so let's move on to that the scholarship evaluation. So
yeah,
we thought people had asked us, you'd ask us to use this for you and the things. And so with the harmonization, I mean, Jean, you start out with that because this is one of your strengths is talking about this whole particular thing. And then we have some examples.
No, go ahead, Jean. You put that back up there, that evaluation sheet.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Well, yeah, well, we will both do it, but okay, so, and we talked about it earlier also, that choosing the appropriate chords is like, Jean's already addressed, and keeping the implied harmony in mind, but that we need to get better at choosing the appropriate substitute ones and to know that you can enhance the flavor that isn't on that sheet music, because we are not a solo with an orchestra or a piano. We are a barbershop harmony society. So enhance it while still honoring the composer's intent. I talked at the bottom of the sheet, you saw the Gazinta Gazauta. I asked Kay about this yesterday because I said we had some things that I call sort of like leaping buildings. It's like this chord went to here and then boom, all of a sudden we went there. She said, well, Marge Bailey says, and I think she's quoting Renee Craig. So that's why I put them both down. That sometimes your Gazinta doesn't match your Gazauta. The chord you have going in, going out, they don't match. And I don't know, she just called it the Gazinta Gazauta. I'm just sharing with you great wisdom from Renee Craig and March Bailey. But that some of your chords, as we're going to find out with some of these, is like this chord didn't go to the next chord. It told me it was going somewhere else. So we'll have hopefully after looking at some of the chords that we've been looking at in the sheet music, and as we go through, we'll be able to get them. I think the big problems came sometimes in your intros, and that it didn't quite flow, so we need to learn more about that. On the harmonization and that particular thing, I think I did do a maybe can we come back to
okay, let me go back to
I need to screen. I need to share my screen. Can I share my screen?
Sure. I mean, everyone should be able to, yeah.
And then Jean, I think you have a couple on this one too. So why is that going? Oh, that's because it's on the